Cannot swords be turned to plowshares? Can we and all nations not live in peace? In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
They're all over the trees. Don't you see the faces?
Canadian government official is warning we may be on the verge of intergalactic war, saying, quote, the Bush administration has finally agreed to let the military build a forward base on the moon, which will put them in a better position to keep track of the comings and goings of visitors from space, and to shoot at them if they so decide, end quote. Paul Hellyer is a former Minister of Defense and Deputy Prime Minister of the country of Canada. He joins us now from Toronto. Mr. Hellyer, thanks a lot for coming on.
Not at all. It's a pleasure.
Now, you were the Minister of Defense of Canada when you occupied that position, I believe, under Prime Minister Lester Pearson. Did you come across any classified information that suggested UFOs were real?
No, not really. We got regular reports that showed that some of them were, in fact, unidentified. Some of the sightings could not be explained as natural phenomenon, but nothing more than that.
Well, as you know, there's been this debate for years over whether or not they are real. Most people don't think they are real, or most people at least are hesitant to say they believe they're real in public. What convinced you that they do in fact exist?
Well, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been looking at the evidence and assessing it much as, I guess, a judge would, and trying to determine who was telling the truth and who wasn't. And I finally concluded, especially after reading a book called The Day After Roswell, written by Colonel Philip Corso, that unidentifying flying objects are in fact real as the airplanes flying over your head, and that there has been a monumental cover-up for more than half a century. This is after looking at a lot of evidence and trying to discern who was telling the truth and who wasn't, and I have concluded unequivocally that the people who claim that they have either seen UFOs or have seen classified documents about UFOs or have seen wreckage from the crash at Roswell on or about July the 4th of 1947 are the ones who are
laid out these views in September of this year at a speech at the University of Toronto. And according to the news report I have of the speech, your address, quote, ended with a standing ovation. And that implies, I think, that your views are commonplace in Canada. They're a minority view here, a distinct minority view. Do you think most Canadians believe that there is a forward base under construction on the moon and that aliens are buzzing the Earth?
No, absolutely not. Most of them are skeptics. Most of them haven't spent much time researching the subject, and so I think the average here would be very similar to the average American.
It's ironic that the U.S. should be fighting monstrously expensive wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, allegedly to bring democracy to those two countries, when it itself can no longer legitimately claim to be called a democracy, when trillions, and I mean thousands of billions of dollars, have been spent on projects about which both the Congress and the Commander-in-Chief have been kept deliberately in the dark. How much has been accomplished in 60 years of feverish activity by some of the most educated minds in the United States? Has America developed flying saucers that are visually indistinguishable from the visitors, as alleged? And if so, what do they propose to do with them? Even more critical, what progress has been made in the development of clean energy sources that could conceivably replace fossil fuels and save the planet from becoming a veritable wasteland? Well, who has the answers? Someone does, but apparently they aren't telling either secretaries of defense or presidents because they don't have, quote, a need to know. In a story told by Dr. Stephen Greer, President Clinton was asked a question by White House reporter Sarah McClendon about why he didn't do something about disclosure. And Clinton replied, "Sarah, there's a government inside the government, and I don't control it." Excuse me, doesn't the commander-in-chief and the person who allegedly has their finger on the nuclear trigger have a right to know what his subordinates are doing? The people of the United States who have paid the bills have the right to know. The people of the world demand to know because it is our descendants too whose lives are in mortal danger. It is time for the people of the United States to launch a new war against the evil of lies, deceit, and darkness, and go all out to win the victory of truth and transparency and light. Thank you.
The disclosure.
Hey, are your ideas for global takeover falling apart? Are you losing sleep over humanity's mass awakening? Is false flag terrorism fizzling out? Global warming gone cold on you? Do you want those global warming deniers to just go away? Are all your phony economic crises being exposed? Is the price of gold defying all your attempts to fix it? Isn't killing the Gulf of Mexico and poisoning millions of people reducing the population fast enough for you? War, famine, and GM food not getting it done either? No? Well, don't give up. Get disclosure. You'll be able to unite mankind with a phony problem and enslave them with one world government and taxes. Yes, disclosure. Your one-stop shop for full spectrum dominance. But wait, there's more. Sign up for Disclosure today and you'll get problem, reaction, solution absolutely free. That's right, absolutely free. Act now to be entered into our fabulous propaganda prize draw. Disclosure. Our surveys show that 9 out of 10 world leaders prefer it. Disclosure. Cleansing the minds of the unwashed masses with a tantalizing, terrifying, taxable new reality. I'm only going to say this 3 times. Disclosure! Disclosure! Aliens may or may not be real. Your home may be at risk from those possible aliens. No major credit cards accepted because there is only one currency under a one world government. Prepare to die screaming, probably. Disclosure is compatible with Project Bluebeam. Do not employ critical thinking.